Hey, welcome to the Sketchbook. If you've been following me on Instagram, I've been making these videos daily, just showcase my progress in my sketchbook and what I'm learning about creating this project and drawing every day and my adventure in my sketchbook. But I want to create this little series on YouTube to really take you into my mind, into my process of actually drawing and sketching, especially digitally, because it's a little bit easier for me to record that kind of process. So today, in this first video, we are drawing backgrounds. Already have some backgrounds prepared here that I've already sketched, but I really want to break down the process of going from breaking down big shapes all the way down to the small details when you draw backgrounds, because it's actually not that difficult. It's not that hard to understand, and the more you do it, the more you'll get better at it, obviously. But I really want to just showcase the process on how I create backgrounds like this, and sketch and practice drawing environments and architecture in perspective. I have some perspective grids. I'm going to use this space down here to draw a new sketch and walk you through the process. But I also have my reference board up. This is my peer reference board I'm using. This was the reference board I was using for Starfall, a project I was writing a little bit last year. It's not that organized. I recommend that you organize your reference boards because it's kind of all over the place. I have stuff for costume design, and maybe that can be in a separate sketchbook session, sketchbook video. But for now, I'm focusing on architecture and buildings. And so that's what I have. I have a lot of reference for architecture, buildings, and things like that. Um, Even like modern stuff, but anything that I can just draw inspiration from. I'm not necessarily trying to copy any of this. I enjoy drawing medieval fantasy kind of stuff, and so that's kind of reference I'm looking for. Is like these medieval European towns and structures, and 90%, no, not 90, 100% of my references from real life. Maybe stuff like this is kind of a not, but uh, I do my best to get and gather reference that is from real life and to use that for my reference. And so when I am going to start this next sketch, let's say I want to draw another street level view, maybe another alleyway or something like this first one. Um, First of all, first and foremost, make sure that we're being really loose with the lines that we put down that we're sketching. And then we are going to go from there. So I always like to start the drawing off with a frame or like as if I'm drawing in a comic book panel. So use my Avion ballpoint pen. But I'm just gonna draw a box. Maybe you've seen me draw those boxes on my sketchbook series on Instagram. Basically, everything I draw is gonna exist inside this box, this frame that we see the the scene from, right? So after that, I can start drawing my basic horizon line. Actually, I'm going to separate this so it's on a, I'm going to put it in its own layer, and then I'm going to separate it into its uh, own layers. So it's in its own folder, own layers, and this horizon line, I'm going to use a red color to create a horizon line really quick, really fast, to show you how to create one. But basically, this is going to be our eye level for the scene that we want to draw. And so let's say if you want to be looking down at a scene, you want to make your horizon line farther up on your canvas or in the frame. And if you are looking down at a scene, you want to make your horizon line, or I think I said that wrong. If I'm looking down at a scene, yeah, my horizon line is up here. If I'm looking up at something, my horizon line is going to be lower in my frame. All right, and so that's what we want to make sure that we're doing. For now, I kind of want to keep it towards the middle, so that's fine here. And then I'm gonna search for some reference that I can use as inspiration to inspire me to create something new, but not necessarily copy any one thing that I see. And I'm specifically looking like for alleyways and things like that that I can use. So maybe something like this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna show you how I would break something down like this, and I like this picture here as well. Pretty cool. So we can use that as inspiration and some of these towns and villages and castles. things like that, to create something new. And while we're using this as inspiration, we're really um, not trying to copy anything that we see in the reference. And so we have our horizon line. I'm thinking that this is going to be in a 1-point perspective, like this one. My first sketch here is in a 1-point perspective. I believe this one is in a second 2-point perspective. And then this one was a 3rd-point perspective. So I'm just going back to my 1-point perspective grid. So every horizon line or every uh, perspective grid has a vanishing point on it. Because we're doing 1-point perspective, it only has one, obviously. So we're gonna have lines that all are parallel to each other and go back into space and converge at that vanishing point. Super simple, super easy. And I've actually created like perspective grids, so I don't have to do this every time and draw it. But it is a good practice to draw your own perspective grid so that you get in the habit of thinking in a 3-dimensional way, because everything that we draw exists in a 3-dimensional space, right? Even though we're drawing on a 2D plane, it exists. The subject matter we're drawing exists in a 3-dimensional space. And so you always want to remember that. Next, I'm going to draw these green lines that represent the vertical space in the scene. And then I'll use blue to represent the horizontal space in the scene, like the floor and the sky, you know. And so you can clearly kind of see how now we have more of a like 3D space. And it's easier to kind of visualize how an object moves back into space. So this is going to be a little bit longer of a video, but I really want to break down how I'm sketching, how I create simple environments like this, because when I create my comic, it's probably going to be more of a sketchy style. I don't really like doing really precise looking line work because I'm kind of impatient. And so I want to put as much information down with sketchy, loose lines and go from there. So this reference reminds me of 1-point perspective. It looks like it's has a 1-point perspective in it. Like if I draw in this scene right now, horizon line is probably right here. That's where our eye level is. Somewhere right there, probably. Or maybe like farther, maybe like right here, maybe. Somewhere right there. It's kind of hard to tell when you're using reference, but it's probably like somewhere right here. And then all the buildings converge back to 1 point here, somewhere like this. As long as you can follow like the lines and where they go. That's why I kind of said it may be like up here. It is a little bit harder to tell, but you got to do your best when you use reference. And that's why I don't really copy from reference. I just use that as inspiration, because it can be kind of hard to kind of get the precise looking kind of grid that you need or that you may want. Um, but as long as you understand that it is in a 1-point perspective, then you're good. Especially like these buildings in the foreground here. They all go back into one vanishing point somewhere. It's kind of hard to tell, but they go back into 1-point perspective somewhere. So that's what I'm going to do on this page here, or on this sketchbook. Um, whatever I'm trying to say. So let's start. I always start every single drawing. Every single one of these drawings starts with a big, simple shapes. So what we're going to do is we are going to map that out and basically just draw boxes in space. We're going to use our perspective grid that we created, our 1-point perspective grid, to draw some boxes, right? That recede back into space following that grid. The closer the object is to you, the bigger it's going to be. So if we have the same box, but it's closer to our camera in this sense, then it's going to be like this size, right? Same box, but it's way closer to us, and that makes it feel like it's closer to us, right? And so same thing, the closer it gets to this vanishing point, the smaller it feels and the further away it feels, right? So same box, but it's smaller. It's going back into space, receding back into space, and it feels smaller, right? So just like the little cool fundamentals that you can use to create awesome backgrounds. So yeah, I'm gonna start with big basic shapes to plot out the basic structures of buildings where I want them to be, and let's draw something to where it feels like you can walk around this corner down into like this city street or something. And so maybe there's going to be a building up here that's really close to us, like this. And we're going to represent it with one big basic box or, yeah, cube. And next, I want this to loop around like this. And so maybe I can make this, I think I can make this, I don't want to really show that much of that side of the building. So I'm going to move this side closer to the vanishing point like this. And we still have this street over here or this alleyway over here. And then we're going to have the building recede back into space. But we're not going to see as much of that side of the building, right? Nice. Next, I can draw building over here on this side. Just represented with another big cube or box. Everything you can, if as long as you understand that everything that you draw is made up of the basic simple shapes, you can draw anything, you know. And so that's what I hope to demonstrate during this video, this sketchbook session. Everything is simplified into big simple shapes, and that's what makes it drawing fun. It's like once you understand that, you can draw anything. All right, so yeah, we have the basic idea, right? We want this scene to feel like you can walk around this corner down into the street. And so kind of similar to this, maybe I can have another building here, and it is something like that. And I can erase all these lines here. But we always start with the big basic shapes first, and with everything that you draw, that you can apply that to everything and anything you draw. When you're sketching this, be really loose and sketchy, or I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, be really loose. I'm not really worried about if it looks right or not at this point. As long as it feels good at this point, you can move forward. You just don't want to you just want to make sure that you're not confused as to what you're trying to draw. Like with every sketch that I do, I understand what kind of a scene I want to create. This scene I wanted to make an alleyway. This scene I kind of wanted to make a village in a forest or something. This was like a more dramatic kind of a scene that I wanted to draw, and be as loose and sketchy as you need to be. Nothing needs to be perfect, but yeah, I'm just going to continue drawing boxes that recede back into space and make it feel like it's a street that you can travel down into, right? And so next, you can't see it in this particular reference over here, but I want to gather a reference or look at reference of like rooftops and just take notice of like the shape of the roof and how I can implement that into my own buildings and design, right? I'm not really trying to design buildings right now. I just want to kind of get the idea of what a rooftop would look like. So it's just this basic kind of a shape. Still following perspective, right? It's basically two rectangles on top of each other, like this rectangle, and then this rectangle. Almost like a folded piece of paper. You can think of it like that, right? And so that's what I'm thinking about. And it just recedes back into space. And so we'll continue to do that as we go back. But maybe we want this building to be a little bit taller than this first one over here. So I can make this one taller. And do like that. Oh, and maybe what if there was like a bridge that connected it to a building over here? Maybe like a stone bridge that connected these two buildings here. That'd be cool. And that's why reference is important, because it allows you to come up with those kinds of ideas. I'm sure I could find something like that in this reference here, but that may take a minute to find something like that. But for now, we will continue to just put in the basic shapes for buildings and all these structures using basic simple shapes. I can make this building taller, follow the perspective grid back into space. I'll probably erase these lines as well, like this. All right. Like don't worry about details at all. Like that's how you start to get stuck when you start drawing, is like you will start focusing too much on the tiny little details instead of the overall big picture first and the big shapes first. So that's why I am drawing all the simple basic shapes before I even think about details. So when I map out the roof of the object or the building, I basically want to plot out the middle of the shape like this. Yeah, you can plot out the middle of the shape of this box that you create. And that's how I determine where the middle of the roof will be, or the start of the roof will be. Like, I don't really need to be an architect to kind of figure this stuff out. As long as it kind of feels right and looks right to me, then that's what I'm doing. So for example, all right, so yeah, it's a like I was saying, you don't need to be an architect to figure this kind of stuff out. I'm just like observing the world and the reference that I'm seeing. And so we have this big simple box here, this rectangular prism here in perspective, right? And the other side would be like over here somewhere, something like that, you know, have this box. And then to map out where the roof will start, I basically just map this point out, or map out the point of the middle point of this box that I have, and just take it all the way up, and there we go. Now we know where the roof will start, somewhere like that, right? So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm drawing all my roofs in my drawing, and just mapping out that basic shape for every single box. And of course, because we're so close to this building here, we can't see the roof, right? And so you want to make sure that you establish depth in the drawing by doing that, by placing different buildings from that are really close to you and buildings that are really far away from you, and using your perspective to create depth, right? So maybe after that point, when we go down this long street, maybe the buildings start going that way again. So I can just draw a horizontal line this way and buildings that go that way now. And then we can have a rooftop that goes up here next to this point here, and then goes back into perspective like this. And so amazing. Now we have the start of a cool drawing, and it's looking good. I said I wanted this bridge kind of a thing, this archway, to maybe like connect this building to another building on the side. So maybe I can make it a little bit bigger. This, and again, just sketching the really big basic shapes. This. Now we have like this bridge over here. Looks pretty cool. And now I can start getting really creative and fun with it, because I want to create a medieval fantasy. Nothing in my drawings really needs to feel like realistic. So I don't really care if it feels kind of out of place, or if anything kind of feels too fantastical, because that's kind of the point. And I'm not like a city planner or architect, so I don't need anything to feel real. But I kind of want this like shape of like this castle, kind of a shape in the background. And then at that point, that's probably pretty much all I can add for this scene. But this is a good starting point. I'm going to shrink down my reference board so it's easier for me to see what I'm drawing. Keep my reference up on the side here. Which will and really just use my reference. Like, I really enjoy this reference here because it kind of shows me how building is, what the style of the building is, and I can implement that into the drawing. I really like how it has a stone base, and then on top there's like this Tudor style house. And that's why studying from real life is really important, and doing research on like how things work. Like, you don't really need to understand how every little detail works, but just like doing research on like this building style, or why people built like this, and what materials they use, can really inspire you to create the world that you want to create. But you don't have to go that deep. You can just use it as reference if you want. But I do like how the base of the building is made of stone, and then it goes from stone to being uh, whatever material that is, like wood and stuff like that. But I'm gonna erase some of these lines, create that kind of indent the building. I don't know what that's called, but like this kind of stair step that goes up like this that we see, something like that. And then that way we can get more of that bridge in the scene. I gotta make sure I'm sticking to my perspective. So see how this is built. Like these wooden beams that go across that way. I just represent them with these simple lines. Like I said, I don't need it to be super uh, detailed. I kind of want to just suggest detail in my drawings. I don't really care about it being super refined. I'm fine with things being sketchy, so I'm just gonna keep it that way. It's just up to you to determine on what you want to do. I just like to draw kind of fast and loose, so that's kind of the style I have adopted. But I'm gonna start drawing these wooden beams in the buildings. These are going to represent my medium-sized shapes, and then like things like windows and the detailing on roofs will be like the small details that I save for the last part of the process. I just don't ever want to start with that stuff. I want to start with the big basic shape. So just like in this scene here I drew, maybe I can have the same shape for the door in here. So maybe this could be the same town that I'm drawing. So there's like maybe a door here. Again, we start with that big simple shape, the door, this. Maybe there's a window here as well. Is represented with a rectangle. And then maybe I can draw another wooden beam here, this. And same thing from for this level of the building. And then the beams kind of like line up with each other in the reference, right? There's a wooden beam here, here, and they just line up together. So that's what I'm looking to do in my own drawing on the side here. So erase these lines, reference, but it's really fun once you start getting the hang of this because you can just really start using a reference as inspiration instead of trying to copy things. That's where you may be getting stuck is like trying to literally copy the reference one to one. But for me, that's never really worked because of how kind of overwhelming it feels to draw something like this from reference. Like, of course, you could draw it one to one, but to me, that's not what I need. I just want to get the feeling that I'm getting from this, the image that I'm using as reference, right? All right, there we go. I just turned the opacity down of my perspective grid. And I'm just going to continue to map out the basic shapes that I see. This, and there's going to be windows up here. Well, one right here. All right, cool. This is gonna be a cool scene by the end of this. I already see the vision. I can see like my characters walking through the scene, and uh, that's kind of like a whole different topic to think about. Is like how you draw characters in this scene. But for now, we'll just stick to the buildings, right? Same thing over here. The base of the building is made of stone, and there's gonna be like a separation. But I want to make sure that all the buildings feel like they are kind of the same height, and so I wouldn't draw this beam that separates the top level from the bottom level right here in this spot. I would draw in the same kind of location, or but I would draw at the same level as I drew this one. So it would be somewhere right there instead and line up with the horizontal lines in my perspective grid. So it would be like right here. This. Nice. There we go. All right. And then we're just going to continue to do the same thing over and over again with the buildings that recede back into space. Like this. And this building is a little bit smaller than these two. This one and this one. One is a little bit smaller, so it doesn't have to have the same kind of rules where we have the beam that lines up here because it is a smaller building. Like this building feels like a two-story building, maybe even higher up. This one does too, but maybe this building could just be a smaller one, and it can only be a one-story building that we can draw. So maybe I can shift rooftop down a little bit like this. We adjust the perspective a little bit, and sometimes it's just better just to redraw stuff if you really have to. And if you're doing this on paper, I recommend doing this with pen. It may feel harder, but it's gonna be worth it because it gives you the confidence just to sketch without um, too much pressure, or just builds your confidence in your drawing skills because it allows you to make mistakes faster and draw more often, I feel like. So nice. We have a maybe one-story building, and now this wooden beam kind of lines up right here, perspective. So I'll probably move the roof down further. And this is the approach I take when I draw every single background and environment and building that I want. But yeah, this one's gonna be like a one-story building. Everything else around it will be maybe 2 stories. So looks good so far. Maybe I can have a door to this building here. This is really sketchy, really loose. Same thing over here. It's gonna be a door to this building. Right there, map it out with a basic rectangle shape that aligns with the perspective grid. Everything recedes back into space. So as we go farther back in space, the doors are going to be smaller, the windows are going to be smaller, everything. And I just like to represent it with like simple lines like this. Like I'm implying detail with these little scribbles basically. But if you zoom out, you can kind of tell what it is, right? It's a window, right? And so I don't need to uh, really draw everything in super hyper realistic detail. I just really want to suggest that detail. That's just me, I like to draw things really loose. So just want to get all the like medium-sized shapes in. And basically we're working our way from the big overall details to small details, and or big overall shapes to the small details. And so maybe there's windows up here on this building now, this size here. Maybe this is like the third level, third story of this building. So it's really big, really tall. Maybe there's a doorway right there that connects to that building, or to the bridge, I mean. This, nice. We have these wooden beams that connect to the rooftop. When I'm drawing the roof, I basically just use simple hatching to imply roof tiles. Again, it's just implying detail. And at this point, it's like really easy for me to uh, start drawing all the little details because I don't have to worry about the basic foundational structure anymore. Now just put in whatever I need, wherever I need it to go. And this is pretty much it. This is how I start drawing every single background I want to for all my drawings. So now I'll just work from foreground to middle ground to background. These buildings here, let me plot this out for you. These buildings here are all in the foreground. And this would be the middle ground for the image. All these buildings here with the bridge. And the background would be all of these buildings way back here that recede into space. And so that's what I'm thinking about when I'm drawing and creating every single environment. It gets a little bit more complicated when you want to draw bigger and larger scale scenes, but same principles. You just gotta figure out how to put more information in those scenes, right? So same thing. Every single sketch here has a foreground, a midground, and a background, and so keep that in mind. And now what I'm gonna start doing is start adding fun details because while I'm sketching, I'm not really like those are like the general principles I'm thinking about, but I'm not really trying to think of it in like a analog or robotic way. I just want to start sketching now and really just start drawing what I feel is right for the moment, right? Uh, You don't have to follow that exact step by step little process, but that just kind of helps you think about how to think about going about a large scale kind of a scene and drawing all those details that you want in the scene, right? 'Cause it can be overwhelming, like I said, if you start with the details first. So just remember those kind of rules or just like the foundations to drawing. You'll be on your way to being able to draw whatever kind of scene you want because for me and the comic I'm creating, I want to make sure I can draw cool looking environments and backgrounds for my characters and the world that they live in, right? And so simple sketches like this, just get my ideas down on paper, really helps me understand what I need for my story and what the world looks like. Helps me visualize it, you know. So and maybe if I can find a picture of a street lamp somewhere. Yeah, this one. That's perfect. That was perfect. Yeah. So there's a street lamp here. Maybe I can incorporate that here on this building. This curves like that. And I'm just implying detail once again. Like I don't need to go super in depth with it, but that's just kind of like the style I like. You know, just super sketchy. So yeah, I could even draw like a signpost or something here, but stick with this lamp here for now. Kind of curves down. Drawing is really just observational skill, making sure that you draw what you actually see, not what you think you see. And that's why reference is so important. So nice little lamp there connected to this building. And like certain things, like how does it connect to the building? Like I don't really need to know. I'm sort of draw it, and I think as a viewer, you kind of understand what we're looking at, right? Not everything needs to be super explained or go into super hyper realistic detail. Um, Building this side of the building looks kind of weird. I wanted to go like this and follow the perspective. It needs to be something more like this. Just we need to see the under part of this. I gotta make sure I draw that correctly. You see the underside. So you gotta make sure that you stick to your perspective grid and make sure that it aligns to the best of your ability. I don't need it to be perfect, but I do want to make sure that I am sticking to the perspective, make sure it looks uh, as believable as possible. And yeah, that looks a lot better. Cool. This. And I can push the windows up a little bit more, make them smaller if I want to. This and then space them out again. That. Nice. And these are kind of like the practice, or this is the kind of a practice that I'm doing in my sketchbook. Really just figuring this out stuff out. Nothing has to be perfect either. If something looks kind of weird or wonky, it is what it is. I just want to get the idea on the page. And later, if I really need to refine it for a scene that I really want to use, my comic maybe, then maybe I would go back and refine it. But for now, this is all I need. Next, let's find reference for a door, maybe. Maybe have some reference for a door somewhere. Ooh, that looks cool. I like that. I like the kind of pattern that's in that door, so I can do something similar. Maybe it is just, maybe there's a window on it. This, that pattern is engraved on the bottom of the door. This, that could be cool. There's a door handle somewhere right there. Same pattern in the glass. That, there we go. Looks pretty cool. All right, cool. One thing I need this wooden beam here. It's kind of getting in the way of the composition or the end of the frame. Kind of looks awkward, so I'll just move it like that. Maybe I can push it over here like that. Here we go. And then next, I know I wanted some stone on the bottom of the structure, so I can just represent it with big, basic, simple stone kind of shapes like this. Nice. Window over here on the side, maybe. And now I'm just really having fun because I have all my big basic shapes down. So now I can just start drawing on the mid-sized details and smaller size details as well. Use some like texture in the wood post here. Really just having fun at this point. Because I even want to put like stone in the walkway here. Maybe it is. You just got to make sure everything is aligning up with your perspective grid as much as possible. Like sometimes an image like this, these buildings don't really align with perspective, right? This 1 point perspective that we see. These buildings are kind of outside of that. And so you can play with that, and I'm still learning how to figure that out, how to draw buildings that feel realistic and that are in the same space as buildings in a certain perspective, but make them feel different and unique, right? So it's all a learning process, and that's what the sketchbook is for, is to learn, to grow, to sketch as much as possible, and to have fun while we do it. So I don't want to create this like kind of a tile, kind of a stone feeling in this alleyway or structure. Not structure, but just like this alleyway, this street. And what's cool is after this, I can start adding like props, like barrels and things like that. That's why I just encourage you to gather reference of all kinds of different stuff that you can use to inform your decisions and stuff you can include in your own backgrounds and environments, because the world we live in is kind of messy too, and especially depending on the kind of world you want to draw. For me, it's medieval fantasy, so I don't want to get that kind of vibe from the what I draw is like barrels. There's street lamps, street posts, uh, lanterns, and stuff like that. Banners, signs, like this sign, for example. I can use maybe there's a street sign somewhere. Maybe right here. This maybe it says something on it. I don't know what it says right now, but even like reference your favorite pieces of media, video games, entertainment, movies, and see how they use their props and stuff, because that can really help you understand where you need to put props, where props may be missing, and how to incorporate them into your own artwork or drawings, because those little things really make the world feel alive. And so you don't want to really forget about those things. And it's just up to you how detailed you want to go into that. But I do like that little signpost there. That's pretty cool. Um, Next, I just want to continue working on the stones here in this building. This nice, because yeah, I want the bottom of all these buildings to be stone. I think I did that over here a little bit, yeah. But once again, I'm kind of just implying it. Not really going into too much detail. But basically, the closer something is to you, the kind of more detail you want to put in it, and the farther away something is from you, the less detail you need to put into it. So the buildings way back here aren't going to have the same amount of detail in the stones that I have here, right? So drawing simple circular shapes for stones and being really loose. Hopefully this helps you understand how I go about drawing these things, and I like this kind of idea for a series of sketchbook sessions that I do to really show you my process and the way I'm thinking about drawing. It'll be a little bit longer form videos, but that's okay. This only helps one person and it's worth it. So either way, I will continue to make these videos and sketchbook sessions, really break down the process and how I'm thinking about drawing these things. It's really fun, building your own world, drawing your own stuff, your own story, creating what you have imagined, and so having fun in the process, learning how to do all this. Problem with having a unorganized reference board is that now I can't find the original reference I was using for this picture. But it's all good. I have enough reference I can use. Oh yeah, this one. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. These stones here that I want to draw. The idea that I want, that I'm going for. What else can I implement? Maybe like these wooden beams all over the place. Maybe I can incorporate wooden beams like this somewhere. This. And now, see, now I'm getting into the smaller details. I'm not really focused on those smaller details at the beginning stage, but toward the end, right? And we're going to see a lot more of these details foreground and the wooden texture, the beams and things like that. Here too. And for me, nothing has to be perfect. As long as I get the practice in, I'm fine with that. So amazing so far. Because all this is about is just getting the idea that I want and really understanding, really wanting to get my idea out of my head, right? Explore the world that I want to create. So, and just take your time as well. Like I'm kind of going fast, getting fast and loose, but definitely be loose, but just take your time with this because you also want to make sure that you're learning as much as possible. But just remember to go from big, medium, small, and everything that you draw. Big shapes to small shapes, or the big shapes all the way down to the medium shapes and the small details. So, one like a window over here. Even like drawings, like historical drawings, like these are really cool too. Because look at this. This is so cool. Like this kind of artwork, I want to kind of implement into my own drawings. I wonder who created this. Stuff like that is really cool. Like even the street that we see and like the different textures for the sidewalk and then the street and even in the buildings and windows. Like this stuff is so cool, man. So cool. So I want to just do my best to implement that into what I'm drawing. I like these wooden beams. They're really cool. Wow, really cool. Once again, just trying to get the idea out of my head. You know, there's like these railings. They have all these signs and these kind of not hoods. What are they called? Not a porch either. Like these tents. Side of the buildings here. They're being held up by something. I don't know. Something. That looks pretty cool, right? They have windows, signs. I don't even know I had this in my reference board, but I definitely want to look up more artwork like this because stuff like this is really cool. And this is kind of the stuff that inspires me as well as like real life artwork and different artists who draw in this kind of style. Really reminds me of like the like Japanese RPG kind of games as well. Like it's almost like a watercolor painting, maybe. I don't know what that is, but it definitely reminds me of that. Maybe there's a window here. Maybe there's a sign above this door frame. Some words say it'll just be scribbles for now. Building be made of stone. So I don't need to go in super hyper detail mode at this point because it's kind of farther away from us. So I just want to imply that stone is there. Don't really need to sketch every single stone. And even this is a little too much for me right now. I just kind of just want to really imply it. few stones here and there like this. Apply that detail. Apply that texture. And same thing for the rooftops. Like in this drawing, specifically, I can definitely tell this is a drawing from like the older drawings from times past. But even their roofing isn't like super detailed. Like that's so cool. I can just imply it with super simple lines, shapes, this, and go from there and keep it like at that, you know? So cool. Stuff is really cool. And what about the doors? Like I can't even see the doors, but it looks like this one has like a window to it. So cool. It's just like they're implying detail in this piece of artwork. I wonder what this style is called because I gotta look up more artwork for this because this is really inspiring me. But I definitely want to make sure that 90% of my reference is from real life so that I'm not just copying one specific style. But it's just up to you. You can do what you do. I'm gonna do what I do. And we will be good either way. You know, so fun. Make sure you're having fun. That's what practice is all about. Is really having fun, learning, growing, getting better. You know. So we're almost at the end of this sketch. Looking really good. I also want to apply some stone texture to this bridge. So I'm gonna draw these really big blocky kind of shapes that connect to the bridge. These really big stones like this. Nice. Right, cool. And back here, maybe there's some windows and door frames. Apply it, you know, imply the detail. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Hatching for the rooftop. Hatching over here as well. It just follows the form. Maybe in this tower in the background, I can add some small windows back here. That is really cool. I'm enjoying this, you know, just enjoy the process, have fun. And I can already imagine my characters walking down the street and a scene taking place here. Something is going down. The next thing I want to add is like barrels. That's why I have props up. I have reference like this with like street vendors, and I don't really know where this is at, but it kind of inspires me to like um, use it in some way for my own stuff, even stuff like this, Renaissance fairs or something like that. This also gather reference for props, you know, because it really will make your world feel a little bit more alive and interiors as well. But I want to use this reference over here for my barrels. Basically, you just I'm gonna draw. I kind of want this to feel more fantastical, so I'm gonna draw the barrel. Really, I'm gonna draw it really big. Be this. Here's also a good point as well. But anything above the horizon line, you are not gonna see the top of that object, right? Necessarily. So like this cylinder, the barrel is a cylinder, right? But if we draw the cylinder below the horizon line, we're not gonna see the bottom of it. We're gonna see the top of it. We draw the cylinder from where it's above the horizon line, we're going to see the bottom of that object and we're going to be looking up at it. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I explained that well. But when I'm drawing this barrel here, I really want to make it feel fantastical, really large, really big. And I'm going to feel like it's off screen, and that's fine. That's going to give us more depth in the scene. This window is going to be back here. Window frame, glass here. Fading to the glass a little bit. Texture to the wood. This, nice. And then this part of the building is made of stone. Even the stones can follow the perspective grid a little bit as well. Everything's receding back into space, right? Right. Those wooden beams to this part of the building as well, like we did in the other building over here on the side. Nice. We have a nice sketch in about 40 minutes or so of drawing. This is really fun. Enjoying it. I like it. Hard to see. Let me see if I can find some reference of more barrels. But even a reference like this is a really cool alleyway. I could draw something like that later down the line. But looking for more reference of barrels and props that I have. This is why it's important also to like really organize your stuff because um, I don't really want to be searching through all my reference for forever, right? But here's a good example. They have these rings around it, top of it, and a curve around this object, this barrel. Then we have these lines, the pieces of wood that it's made of, and maybe some cracks in it. And like I said, the closer you are, or the closer the object is to you, the more detail you will see in that object. So I'm going to draw some cracks in the wood, some texture in the wood, basic hatching for a little more little details. Uh, yeah, more textures. Here we go. Now we have a barrel in the foreground, really big. So maybe I can put another barrel or box or something over here on this side. Well, maybe it's up next to this wall up over here. And I'm gonna shrink my reference down just a little bit. Go. But yeah, maybe I can put another barrel over here. This. It's gonna be pretty big as well. Something like this. Nice. Really fun, really cool. Everything just wraps around. There are these, I think they're pieces of metal kind of wrap around the barrel to hold it in place. But notice how I started the barrel. I started drawing it with a big kind of cylinder shape, and then I started going into the medium-sized details and smaller details from there, right? So you can literally apply that to everything and anything that you draw. So don't forget that. Right. Nice. Maybe there's baskets on the ground, little boxes and things like that. That's why it's so important just again, think of everything that you draw in a three-dimensional way, like objects overlapping each other and everything recedes into space. Maybe here's this box here, little crate or something. If I had a reference for a crate, I would pull it up. I don't think I necessarily have that, but I kind of understand what it looks like. Little crate here. There's like bottles and little jars and stuff on top of it, maybe. Little stuff like that. Nice. And you can go into even more detail. And at this point, it's just really fun. I'm gonna stop right here for now and add some shading. But yeah, you can really go into as much detail as you want. I can even start adding characters to this. Maybe some clouds in the background over here like that. Maybe more buildings back here like this. But it's just at this point, it's up to you what you want to draw. But now to really separate the forms and like the the street and what we're looking at, kind of want to add some shading so it looks a little bit more interesting. So maybe this side of the building is in shadow. Get a little lighter on my opacity. This. Oh, I can draw a shadow like this. Nice. Shadow under this side of the building. Shadow for this like little alleyway over here. For the little tent. This side of the building as well. So basically, it's showing that my primary light source is coming from over here, right? The sun. and it's beaming down into the street. Next, I can add more shading over here to this building underneath these little beams and stuff, and just start sketching some cool shadows. Cool. And then this barrel as well. I'm actually gonna make this a little bit darker. If you're drawing in black and white, to really get a sense of depth and make something really close to you again, is just to make this object a little bit darker than the other objects in the scene. And now it feels a little bit closer to us. Like the darkest object kind of feels closer to us, and so that's what you want to keep in mind as well. But there will probably also be some shadows over here under the bridge looking thing, like this, and back here a little bit. Here we go. Full scene sketched in about 40 minutes. And I can go into more details, start adding shading into the little cracks and crevices of stone, add more stones, add more barrels and crates and things like that. But this drawing is pretty much complete. It's done. It's a good sketch, and my practice will be done for this session. So hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something, and you can apply this to your own drawings. That's the kind of vision and goal for this kind of series, is just to help you understand what I'm thinking about, how I'm creating what I want to create, and um, really going about this entire process. I just copied and pasted this layer to make the shadows a little bit darker. But yeah, this is pretty much it for this sketchbook session, episode 1. Welcome to the sketchbook. I hope to do a lot more and just to share the process with you. I'm learning to draw and create this world. If you would like to learn how to draw your own characters, your own stories alongside me, you can come join me on Patreon. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and you got this. Don't give up. I will see you in the next video. So peace.